Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to Market Psychology 101, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear and are cautious when there's greed. Before we get started with today's video, all about the Bitcoin rainbow chart, let me just say it is great to be back. I had a wonderful 3-week vacation, feeling refreshed. I hope you guys are getting out and enjoying the world this summer, whether it's going on camping trips, going abroad. It's always good to take care of yourself, to let the mind go from all the market stuff. That way you can view things as objectively as possible. Sometimes we look at these charts for so long and the lines start to turn into spaghetti. So it is good for all of us to take a break. I had a wonderful break. I hope you can hear the positive, renewed energy in my voice. Let's get into crypto. Let's talk about the rainbow chart, fear and greed. Right now, heck, I left at a great time. Prices have just been going down in crypto, which does mean discounts. And I want you guys to be excited about this, because if you loved any crypto when it is a higher price, then you should like it even more now that it's a lower price. And I'll show you some things I am looking for to possibly signal a turnaround, whether we're going sideways, lower, higher, what I think. But starting off with fear and greed, we are in fear. And like Buffett says, be greedy when others are fearful and be cautious when others are greedy, or be fearful when others are greedy. That's how he put it. I have my own spin on it. But we're in fear right now, which does mean that it is a good time to dollar cost average in. You can see here on the max chart, fear is in a very juicy territory. Does not mean that it can't go lower. It probably will. But there is good places to dollar cost average in on some of your favorite altcoins. Over the past year, guys, this is as low as we've ever been in fear. So again, I know this sucks when you buy into something and you see it go lower. These are the times you should be getting excited, because you can accumulate more and possibly at a cheaper price. So again, always do your research. And if you're putting money into something, that means you liked it enough to do that. And if it goes lower, that's okay. So from fear and greed, let's go over to the alt season index. And something I found peculiar on this when I checked this, and I haven't looked at this in about a month, is that when we zoom out, remember what we talked about before I left, how we had these 3 peaks in alt season. And on that yearly index, we're still elevated. So maybe we're just getting some sideways action here for a bit before this thing's getting ready to blast off. We have not had an alt season with this 4-year cycle or this new cycle yet. And speaking of the 4-year cycles and the rainbow chart, let's look at this. Right now, we are almost dipping back into this accumulate zone. That is a good thing. Guys, look at this. We were halfway up into the yellow holdo zone, and we were in the still cheap zone for a while. Now we are touching back down into this third range. So again, historically speaking, this tends to be a great time to buy. Now, don't just buy because I said buy today. You want to make your own plan. What I do personally, I have a set budget. I never invest more than I can afford to lose. I have a set budget each month that I can put into any stocks or cryptos I like. And there are some cryptos I will be putting some of that budgeted money into this month. And if things are ever too overvalued, I can just pull that money and put in more at a later time when we are at good value. And right now, in my opinion, we are at good value. Not to say we can't possibly go a little bit lower, but we are at good value to dollar cost average in. My advice, and this is not financial advice, nothing here is, but no one can truly time the bottoms and tops. So as long as you know you're dollar cost averaging in at good value, it should pay off later on. Let's get into the chart with Bitcoin. And as you guys can see, we've had our biggest sell-off since this whole bull market began down here in late November of 22. Now, there have been these 20-ish% sell-offs. We've had like 5 of them. You can see there 22%, around 20%. They're all very similar until this last one, 21%. Let's map these all out. From these pumps to the next bottoms, 21%. And then, of course, we had this one, which was about 22%. And now we've had the biggest one at about 25%. So Could we possibly see something like 30%? Sure, maybe. I am watching this 50-week moving average, and that would be close to 50%, or I mean 30% right there as far as a correction. And guys, in my opinion, whenever any asset is staying above the 50-week, we are still technically bullish. Now, maybe there will be a fake out, could go underneath there. I see a lot of price structure right here at the 100 at around 42, 43. If we zoomed in on the daily, which we'll do now, that 50 week that was about at 52, we have this bit of price structure back here. So right now, if we zoom in on the weekly, something I want you guys to notice is that we are forming a little bit of a base here. Again, doesn't mean that we can't come down a little bit more, but as far as the wicks, does look like we're creating higher lows. Let's zoom in on the daily. And on the daily, something that does concern me, at least in the short term, is right here. We have these massive upside wicks, and on the Heikin-Ashi candles, at least, you can see we're not closing above the 200-day. So that makes me feel like there's possibly some more downside to come. Maybe that 52 level, like we talked about, that's on the 50-week moving average, around 51, 52. I think that'd be a very good, strong area for support. Now, there were a couple things. Whenever we're going down, I always want to look at RSI, Relative Strength Index, and the MACD. And so going over to the RSI, thought I clicked on it. Let's try that again. Going over to the RSI, what do we notice here? That on the weekly, we are still bearish. Now, we have not been under this 50 level on the weekly RSI since back in here. And before that, obviously, that's when things really sold off in here from the peak back then. But if we go over to the daily, what you can see here is on the daily, the RSI is oversold. So there are two things for you guys to look for. One is bullish divergence or bearish divergence. Now, if you're asking yourself, what does bullish or bearish divergence mean? Let me see if I can find an example for you guys. So if the peak of the RSI is going lower and the price is going higher, that would be bearish divergence. But if the price is going lower, but the RSI is starting to go higher, that's bullish divergence. So I was looking, do we have bullish divergence yet? Well, the peaks of the RSI here are still going lower, so not yet. If this RSI starts to hit up here on the daily and the price is lower, that does say bullish divergence, and I would look for a possible reversal right there. But overall, it is just looking like it's forming a base, which is fine. Things are oversold on the daily. Not to say that it can't be oversold again. But another indicator I was looking at was the MACD. And there's two different, it's a moving average convergence divergence. There's two different stories here to look at, okay? One's on the weekly. You can see when the MACD flips blue above orange, that tends to be a good time for the market to start to have a reversal, a change of trend. Right now on the weekly, we are in like max bearishness on the RSI. So that's one reason to believe that maybe the price of Bitcoin could go lower. Or as you can see right here, when it peaks, sometimes it just goes sideways. When it peaks, it can just go sideways. So maybe it's going to go sideways and then decide from there. But on the daily, something that the MACD is showing us is that it's at an important point right here, is that we want to see that blue cross above the orange. We want to see this flip a little bit green. And if it does, right now you can see the price of Bitcoin is holding on to that 200-day by a thread. If it does, it's possible that this could be a local bottom. But until that happens, I'm watching for that 52. I'm wondering if we're going to tag 52. In my opinion, though, I'm not missing the value here. As I've talked about with altcoins, guys, if you were buying any alts or anything when they were up here, then you should love them when they're down here. Okay, so going back over to the four-year chart, the Bitcoin rainbow chart, we have these cycles. Something else that I've been wondering about is what would be the general time range for us to see a top? Now, you've heard me say or slip up a couple times and say every 4 years, 4 year cycle. That's because traditionally there has been, you can see here, late November 2013, traditionally it's been about 4 years every time from peak to peak. Now, this was the true peak here, but alt season was back here. And so going over to the charts, when we zoom out, let's get rid of this MACD a little bit. And let's zoom out a bit, is that when we go back, you can see here that the price, what am I trying to say here? Guys, I'm sorry, I'm getting back into YouTube video right now. I wanted to talk about the average days from the new all-time high to the peak, okay? And when we start a new cycle, when we do create a new all-time high, and I've marked those out with this yellow line, every yellow line is when a new all-time high is created from the previous cycle below, okay? When I've mapped those out, on average, it's been about 300 days from the new all-time high, that yellow line, to the next peak. Now, that would be this green line right here, which would be later December of this year, okay? Am I telling you guys that's going to be when it happens? No, just stick with me for a minute here. If we take the average from the halving, and each halving is this white line, if we take the average from each halving to the ultimate peak, that's a bit higher, 484 days. Now, the reason I did this is because this cycle we had something different happen, where the new all-time high happened before the halving. That has never happened before. Going back to the rainbow chart, you can see here each halving came before the next peak. Each halving before the next peak. Halving, new all-time highs. This time, we did have a new all-time high, and it came before the halving. So that time's different. This time is different, and that's why I wanted to map this out. So the way I look at this, and I try not to get too much into the prediction game like so many YouTubers do. They show fractals of what crypto has done before, and they say, you know, hey, that for right now, the price action's following this fractal from 2013 or whatever BS. Guys, it's a dangerous game to get in, because when you try to predict what's going to happen, it's an easy way to get wrecked. I rather encourage you guys to have a plan and draw out a plan so you can react when the price action meets the conditions of your plan. So maybe you're like me. Maybe you have a budget every month. And let's say your budget is, I don't know, $1,000, $500, $100, whatever. You have a certain budget each month. You have a plan written out, and maybe it has something to do with when price of Bitcoin or any altcoin is at one of those moving averages, you get a buy-sell signal. We've talked about this before, how maybe you're just going to buy the weekly or monthly buy signals. That's part of your plan. I don't know. Whatever your plan is yours. I don't want you guys to copy what I'm doing. But when the conditions in the market meet that of your plan, then you get it. Okay, so what I'm looking at here is that maybe somewhere in this range is where the next peak is going to be. Now, things were looking really bullish for a while, and so I think it's good that we have some sideways price action. I think this is a good reminder to all of us to not chase the hype. It has been very hard. I've been reading what people have been saying out there in the YouTube comment sections on X and other places. This has made people feel overall very bullish. And right now, I think this double top, this local double top we had, has helped people take a deep breath. Okay. And right now, what I'm noticing is there are a lot less people talking about crypto as things are bad. And guys, that's a good thing. That's an opportunity. Again, if you were buying in when things were hyped up back here, you should love it when the price is here. But do enough research to make sure you know and feel confident in what you are buying into. So let's review here. We have the 300 days from the new all-time high, which again happened before the halving for the first time this cycle, and 484, about 500 days average from the halving to the next peak. So we have at the end of this year and about August of next year. Let's go over to the Bitcoin rainbow chart and look where the price predictions would have us in some of these zones. So at the end of this year, you can see that third box down in the orange box. You can look at any of the orange or red ones, but conservatively speaking, I'm going to look at the orange one. And the reason why, you can see here how when Bitcoin prices peaked, it's been up in the red. Last time we were in the second red, upper orange. So I'm looking at possibly the lower part as a high of the second red box. That's just me personally. Maybe it goes higher. We'll see. But the lower area that would be around 186,000. So if we did have a top this year, at the end of this year, like the average from a new all-time high to the next peak has shown us, we would be looking for Bitcoin to possibly be between 144 and 186K. I could see it. I think compared to these two cycles, which I were in, it doesn't seem unrealistic. Now, if you guys are new to crypto, it probably does to you. Having been through crypto in these two cycles, where altcoins were exploding 50x, 20x, like all over the place, that price prediction for Bitcoin feels conservative to me. And as far as August of next year, let's say we get something more closer to a 4-year cycle, we would have somewhere between 176 and 226,000. Now, I would prefer, me personally, if we had something more like a 4-year cycle, because it gives us one, more time to accumulate, and two, overall, on this logarithmic regression chart, and you see here it goes by factors of 10, that's what puts it on a log scale, is that on the log chart, you can see that we would have bigger gains and more time to put into the market should we get a 4-year cycle. Now, I don't know, and no one knows what is going to happen. Maybe we do get a top earlier this year or somewhere in between. Maybe it's later this year, early next year. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But the longer we have to accumulate, in my opinion, the better. Now, as far as a true 4-year cycle, let's say that we get a top by November, later next year, you can see here the price is at around 184 to 236K. Right? So those are some possible price ranges to watch out for. Now, if you're more into altcoins than just Bitcoin, like myself, I want to show you guys a couple things with the Bitcoin dominance and the Tether dominance. A couple things that I've been watching here. Now, Bitcoin dominance, we've been in this upper range for a little bit. And right now, on the weekly, you can see here we're still in this bullish trend. It's staying above the 20-week moving average. I am waiting for Bitcoin dominance to possibly have one more breakout. And should dominance have one more breakout to 57% or higher, then typically that's not always good for altcoins, just so you guys are aware. But again, I'm not trying to time bottoms here. I'm just trying to accumulate when we're at lower prices and what I like. Now, I have these two trend lines here because when we had the last Bitcoin dominance peak in 21 during the last cycle, you can see here we have this downward trend line, and that is it puts us about 57, 58%. Also, we had this base. A lot of action back here in dominance, but we also tagged that before that peak. And so these two lines converge around this 57, 58%. In my opinion, that is my base case for as high as Bitcoin dominance will go this cycle. It could possibly go up much higher into the low 60s, mid 60s. I don't know. For me, I don't care. It doesn't matter. But there is diminishing returns each cycle overall, and more money is moving into Bitcoin. So it doesn't have to go higher. It doesn't have to get to these ranges. But truly what's important to me is if you're looking at the alt market, you are looking for Bitcoin dominance to tank to this low 40 percentile as it's done before. When it is tanked here and here in the matter of about a month, that is when alt season explodes. That's when 54% or whatever percent of all money in crypto that's in Bitcoin rolls over into altcoins and the alt season begins and alts explode in value. Okay, so that's one thing I'm looking for. We're still moving up, tells me it's still a good time to accumulate. and it could go higher. That's fine. Maybe it only hits 57, 58. Maybe it goes up to the 60s. Who knows? The other thing I've been watching is Tether Dominance. Let me take this off log. I've shown you guys this chart a while ago, but something to, let's take off, let's hide the moving average thing so we can see this better. Something to keep in mind, and let's actually take off the buy sell signal. I want to show you guys the RSI as well, because overall this has been nice. Okay, that finally happened. I'll get to the RSI, what I is just nice in here. But overall, when the Tether Dominance, this is the percent of money in crypto that's in Tether. Now, Tether is a stable. And so when people don't want to lose value in their money in something more volatile, they put it into Tether, and it just relatively stays about the same price. Okay, so if people are worried about bearish times, they'll convert more of their crypto into Tether. Now, what you notice here is on this trend line, each time it tags this trend line, look, we had the 2017 top, we had the 2019 mid-cycle top right here. Let me go to the rainbow chart. 2019 mid-cycle top here. This little COVID peak was right here. Okay, now the double top that we had in Bitcoin right here, those two peaks were right here. Now, it's something I was talking about with the RSI. I like when the RSI is under 50, because when it's under 50, things can get really bullish. But when it gets above 50, it tends to mean that we're in a bearish cycle. So what happened recently? I told you guys I was hoping it would stay under there. If we were to finish this cycle early, now it hasn't, is that this RSI has gone above 50. So that tells me that we are not quite near the end like a lot of people were thinking. So RSI, and again, I'm not into predict, but just react. And so if we're not near the end yet and the RSI is above 50, that means we do have more time. But you can see here, we hit that peak. So that's probably a local top for a while in the market, and we are coming back up. So we could have maybe a few months of some possible sideways or downward action. Again, that's something you should be excited about. If you have put in money in crypto when it's been at higher prices, you should love dollar cost averaging in when it's at a lower price. Here at Market Psychology, I'm trying to help you guys with the mindset. A lot of you guys, I know you're feeling disappointed, you're feeling disheartened. You're probably not even paying as much attention now that the prices have gone down. And guys, this is the time to pay more attention, because everyone talks about buying at low prices, but very few people do it because we're emotional creatures. And when things go down, we feel disheartened. You got to flip that switch and feel the opposite. Now is the time to accumulate more and to make sure you are following your plan. So because the RSI is above 50, okay, tends to mean that we're in a micro bearish situation. And overall, you can see here on the Tether Dominance, it is still possibly going higher. Now, let's take a look at the moving averages, and let's zoom in on this sucker for a little bit. Now, on the weekly, what do you notice with the Tether Dominance in these moving averages? Okay, we have the 200 week, the 50, and the 100. Okay, because we're moving down so fast. You can see here, it wicked up to the 100 week, and the candle body has not gotten above the 50. So maybe this is an area for price to stabilize around for a bit before Tether comes back down and Bitcoin resumes bullishness again. And on the daily, you can see Tether has gone completely above it. So you want to see it when we do get bullish, get underneath there. Okay. The last thing I will leave you guys with today, something I've been wondering about, and this affects all markets, and that's the VIX. Okay. For any of you guys that don't know, and I talk about this in my stock videos, the VIX is the volatility index. It's the volatility of the markets. Right now, we are at historic low volatility times. Now, when we are at, let's put this on the weekly, when we are at high volatility times, it tends to be near the lows in the market. And anytime we're above 25, 30, really great areas of dollar cost average in. You can see right here we're low. And I know stocks and crypto aren't completely correlated. But because we're at such low volatility, when this does start to get higher, not only will stocks become more volatile and get bigger pullbacks, which the Magnificent Seven, the top stocks, have not really had considerable pullbacks in a while, but you know that's going to affect crypto as well. So the reason I bring this up is because with the volatility getting low, I do wonder when this volatility is going to start to spike and reverse trend. And later this year, as you guys know, in a matter of 3 to 4 months, we have the presidential election. And typically around election time, volatility does tend to go up. So let's find November of 2020. So you guys remember we had COVID around this time. So November 2020, right here, we were in higher, more volatile times, 25 and above. Great times to buy. And as far as November of 2016, you could see here we were spiking in volatility. Okay, again, we were down here, but it was spiking into the election. So not that I'm going to base my entire buying strategy off this, but guys, just something to consider is that as elections get closer, historically that does lead to more volatile times in the market. And closing this off with the rainbow chart, sorry, I'm talking all over the place, I got to get used to doing these videos again, is that I would not be surprised if by the election, maybe August, September, October, November, that we do get possible volatile times, more volatile times, and maybe even see some further pullback in the price. If so, whether we are in the light green, the dark green, if we are in these zones, this is me personally, not telling you guys any financial advice. I will be dollar cost averaging into crypto. I am not going to stop buying crypto when it gets at lower prices because I have done enough research to feel confident in what I put my money into. Now, am I telling you to put all your money into crypto? No. Diversify your portfolio. Make sure you're looking at stocks, crypto as well. Stocks can be are typically less volatile than crypto. So myself, what I like to do is if I make gigantic gains on any cryptos, I like to roll those over into stocks with great long-term potential. That way my money's working for me and it's less volatile. I don't have to worry about it as much overall. That's just me. That's part of my strategy every 4-year cycle. But you guys have to make your own plan. Guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you all for watching. I hope, again, you guys are enjoying your summer. Please, please, please try to go out, do something new, travel somewhere, go hiking, go fishing, get in your car, just drive for 3 to 5 hours, pick a new country, something, because I can tell you right now that each summer when I travel, or each year, and I travel a couple times a year, it is good to turn off the part of our brain that we get into a habit and a routine of using, because when you take a break and then come back, you do tend to look at things with a newer and fresher perspective. And I think that's helpful for us, especially as we try to navigate price action. You know, looking at all these curvy lines, it starts to look like tangled spaghetti, hard to unwind. So it's good to take a break once in a while. And you can't be too obsessed with price action of stocks and crypto. It's okay to take a break. And at the very least, I hope that what I'm teaching you guys on this channel is how to take a simplified, more conservative approach to viewing the crypto markets. And at the very least, you know, you can have on your RSI, your moving averages, you know, buy sell signal indicator. At the very least, you could just be looking for better value on the moving averages and buy signals on the weekly. You could make it that simple if you wanted to. It's not a foolproof plan, but you know, there are ways to simplify when the dollar cost average in. I like where the price is right now. So hope you guys are doing well, and I'll be doing a Bitcoin mining stock video probably tomorrow. So thank you for watching. Take care.